York Times published this editorial article back in 2021. It just popped up on my TikTok and my YouTube, and so I thought I'd say a few words about it myself. I went, found the article, I read it. I understand where the parent is coming from, but I also think that the title is definitely clickbait. Here's the deal. She does say, don't play with your kids, seriously. But when you read the article, she's talking about letting your kids have pretend playtime, letting your kids go off and live in their own imaginary world and do their creative time and their playtime in their room. That is all really good. But you also want to be there for your kids. She talks about being there for her kids, but in her own way, like making guacamole, those kind of things. We do the same thing here at our house. Our child has imagination time where she does her own playtime. She has her own playtime. She pulls us into those stories when she's ready for them, when she wants to bring us in. So she'll just last night created a whole cruise and brought us all into the imagination in her room, the environment in her room that she created. She brought us in there once she was ready for us to enjoy and partake in the imaginary vision that she had. It's great to allow them to have their pretend time, their playtime. It's also really good as parents to be there for your kids. And I think that's really where a lot of people I've been seeing the articles and seeing the TikToks and seeing the YouTube channels, everybody's talking about you need to play with your kids, you need to play with your kids. I 100% agree. You need time with your kids. And I have 24/7, I'm here with my child. I homeschool her. I teach her all day long. She cooks in the kitchen with me. She is at my side all day long. She goes shopping with me. She does everything that mommy does. When daddy gets home, she pulls him in to play different games or go out on the trampoline. But she also takes her own time. And I think really what the article is missing here or maybe what the article could have been more specific about, because I think that it did kind of touch on it on a very light, hey, I think what's missing here is not that you don't want to play with your kids, because you do. I think that title is just to get people to read it. And if people read it, they'll realize that's not what the author is saying. But I think what is missing here is the aspect of, if you're somebody who follows like attachment theory for parenting, you want your child to be independent. You want to teach them independence as part of our job as parents, but you also want them to know that they're safe and they're secure. Think about Maslow's triangle, right? They need to know that they're safe and secure so they can go out and do that. They need to know that they're loved so they can go out there and learn enlightenment and walk up those steps of that pyramid or that triangle. So it's really important to cover all aspects. I think what was missed was allowing, one, you should always have some time where your kid has some imagination playtime on their own. Allow them to go do some pretend play. Allow them to have some, we call it independent play at our house. I'll say, okay, it's time for your independent play. She's got maybe an hour. She goes and does it. An hour turns into 2 hours or 3 hours or however long until she's ready to bring us in. And when she brings us in, she knows we're out here waiting for her. She knows we will come and join her when she's ready for us. But she also knows that this is her time to come up with amazing things and create an amazing world. And that's one thing that she does really well. Today she did a engineering project, a STEAM project, and it was about playground physics. And the teacher taught her about creating a playground with all of the stuff she has around the house. I've got a 1-minute video up on the channel where she shows it off. And all she did was she created her own playground. She created a rock wall. She created a swing, a zip line, a slide, a teeter-totter. All of that came from her own imagination. She did that all on her own. And when she was ready for me to join her in play at that time, then she pulled me in. And that, I think, is really the key that this article is missing. If this article pointed that out, I think there would be a lot less people on different social media channels saying, hey, you should play with your kids. Because I 100% believe that every moment that I can create a bonding moment with my child, where I can create a memory with my child, is going to be so important as she continues to grow and develop. However, she also needs that independent time. So the author maybe just needed to go a little bit more into that detail, as opposed to just brushing over it with a quick, hey, this, I still have my time with them here. Really go into depth in that. And I think that would have had a different response to people reading this article. New York Times, I usually don't read New York Times because they're just all over the place with what they publish. And they don't necessarily go deeply into, when they take research studies and things like that, they don't look at the research study with an unbiased eye, as I prefer to do. Sometimes I've gone and read an article where they had something backed by science, and then you go look at the research study and it was actually conducted by somebody who had a conflict of interest. Those kind of things, to me, scream bias, and I don't enjoy being pulled into those articles and stories and that kind of thing. So I kind of steer clear from media outlets that don't do their research and dig deeper into who did the study, what kind of conflict of interest are here, is there any conflict of interest, was the study set up as a double blind, was the study set up as an experiment, was the study set up as qualitative and quantitative. And believe me, as a doctorate student going to school right now for this and learning this, I am very astute at looking at these kind of things because they're teaching us that. So I think it's really important. That's why I kind of steer clear of New York Times and some other publications. However, when this came across, I was like, oh, no, you can't. The first instinct I said when I saw the articles being placed on my social feed, I was like, no, you have to play with your kid. It's a bonding moment. You have to, build that relationship with your kid. Your kid has to know that you're there for them, and that that you enjoy the things they enjoy. As they continue to grow, you're going to continue to grow with them. That's not what this article is saying, even though the title leads you to believe that. So I think the biggest thing here is that it got a lot. I think the article got what it wanted. It used a title that obviously they want to create controversy. But if you read the article, I see where the parent is coming from, and I understand what she is saying. However, it is important to point out that if the author had gone a little bit deeper into the reasoning behind that, maybe even pulled up some actual studies to show why this is actually helpful, all of those kind of things, there might have been less of a outpour, at least the outpour that I've seen. Again, this was back in 2021. I didn't see this article back in 2021. It's just now popping up in my social media feed, which is very odd in itself. However, I think that the message the author is trying to get across is that we want to be more balanced parents. We don't want to be the helicopter parents. We don't want to be all up in our kids' business all day long. We want to give them the independence and the free time that they have to develop and find their sense of self, which is important, and also offer them that safety and security and that love and that support that will help them to continue to look for that sense of self, their self-confidence, self-esteem, their enlightenment as they're climbing Maslow's triangle or Maslow's pyramid, however you call it, when they're working through those steps. And I think if that had been a little bit more portrayed in the article, there'd be less of a outcry on social media. So kudos to what the author was trying to say. I don't agree. The title was definitely trying to get people to come in and read it and create a little controversy. But if you read the article, there is some interesting points in there. So if you read it, read between the lines, try to figure out what the author is trying to convey. I think that it makes more sense. It's about allowing your kids and enforcing that your kids have some independent playtime and giving them that independent playtime. We give our daughter independent playtime every day. She goes in her playroom. She creates her own world. She writes stories. She does whatever she wants to do. This is her time to figure out what she wants to do with the world around her and to be creative and build her sense of self. And when she's ready to bring us in, we're there for her. And that, I think, is the key. And if that had been more focused in on in the article, I think there'd be less of an outcry and there'd be a little bit more people agreeing with it. So, yeah, we don't want to play with our kids always. We want to give them independent time. Another thing that about this article that I will point out is kind of different than for us, as we are one child parent and the author has 3 children. The difference is in how many children you have. So the author has 3 children, and so those 3 children, brothers and sisters, can play with each other. Whereas if you're a family with a one-child household, then it's a little bit different. Your child doesn't have somebody else to play with. They are going to crave that connection with their parents. But one thing you can do as a one-child household is set up more play dates and try to get the children out to play with other one-child households, because they'll have that independent and creative time with other kids too, so they can learn from each other and grow with each other, with their peers as well. Especially if you're a homeschool parent, that can be a challenge. So that is my rant about this article. I think when it comes right down to it, the author was trying to convey an interesting message about parenting, that we need to allow our children their independent play. If we allow them their independent play, they can create amazing worlds. They can be creative and they can continue to develop that creative side as well as their STEAM side, our science, technology, engineering, math, all of that. They can do that as well as develop their creative side. And that's what companies look for in employees, is people who are creative. It's usually one of the job requirements, is creative attitude, those kind of things, out-of-box thinking. That's how children create that, because they're given the opportunity to be on their own for a short period of time, knowing we're right here on the side, waiting. When they are ready, they'll bring us in, knowing that we will come in and building the confidence in our children that we want to see what they're doing. So when they've built their worlds that they've built, they bring us in and share with us. What an amazing experience for everyone. And your child built that on their own. So there is some good stuff in this article. I just wish that it had touched on that a little bit more, which is why I'm bringing this up. I will link up the article down below. Thanks for listening to my humble opinion, and have a wonderful day. Please subscribe if you like family stuff, lifestyle, recipes, gardening, homesteading, homemaking, homeschool. You'll like this channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.